Hello, good morning, everyone, and also good afternoon and good evening. My name is Zurei Chen. I am the Program Manager and Global Coordinator of ICLEI's Sustainable Mobility theme. And today we have a really good lineup to talk about the electrification of the public transport here. And this webinar will be running for 1.5 hours from now until later on today. And it's been a really warm welcome to you all for coming. And in particular, we know electrification of public transport, in particular the e-bus, is quite a trendy topic at the moment. And cities and countries are racing towards the full electrification, if not 100% zero emission for the public transport or the public fleet. So a quick reminder of sort of today's discussion. We'll have 3 presenters for the day. We have Hannah from REN21, which will be giving us an overview as to the landscape of renewable energy and the electrification of public transport. And Hannah is the project manager and analysis at REN21, and also the senior member of the REN21 research direction team. And she coordinates REN21's flagship report, the Renewables Global Status Reports, and co-authors the report's global overview chapter, and leads work on policy and on transport at REN21. And I believe Hannah will give us a bit more insights into this report and also REN21's work. And the second presenter and speaker is Jingyi, and Jingyi has 10 years experience working for the government, successively engaging in auditing governmental infrastructure project costs and bidding management. And now she is responsible for project management, spatial planning. Let me quickly go through the slides to let everyone knows who's who in the later on presentation. And also Jingyi, in charge of project management, spatial planning, completion of construction standards in management committee of Sino-German Industrial Service Zone. And the third speaker is Yubin, and Yubin has been working at Shenzhen Urban Transport Planning and Design Institute for 3 years. She's mainly engaged in the promotion and application of new energy vehicles and low carbon transport policy research. And her role also includes providing policy advice to transport departments in the public sector. And the webinar will be starting, the content will be starting very soon. I have to remind everyone that the webinar will be recorded and will be available very soon after this webinar, subject to technical difficulties or technical tasks. And if you have any question, it's always welcomed, but please enter your question into the chat box on your right-hand side on the panel so that we could organize and better communicate with our presenters later on. So once again, a warm welcome to all the attendees. The numbers are still coming in, and also for the speakers for today. And I believe everyone has been really curious about the electrification in the mobility sector, especially in the public transport. And at ICLEI, we have been working with this project called CitiesSHIFT, as I mentioned earlier on, which is funded by Hewlett Foundation, working on providing sustainable urban planning for cities in India, in Uganda, and China to escalate the transformation and also transition to low emission transport systems as well as performances. And as we know, globally, an average of 24% of the GHG emissions and a similar proportion of the CO2 emissions actually comes from the transport sector. But however, only 3% of the transport sector has taken up renewable energy, and which is still playing catch up as to the progression we have been seeing of the transition to e-mobility for the past 3 or 4 years. And in particular, since 2017, we have seen an increasing announcement of the transition to the e-mobility and CNG buses, in particular for countries that have declared their ambitions to speed up the process, including countries listed in the slides, but not limited to those countries, because we are still seeing an increasing number of countries sign up to this movement towards the renewable energy or the electrification of public transport. And these countries are not just only have a geographical focus, and it's actually countries spreading across the world. And cities, as we know, what ICLEI has been working together with, are actually reacting to the these calls and these ambitions from national governments. And there are a few examples here. Say, Seoul is to phase out all diesel buses in 2017, and Delhi will be introducing the full electric buses. In Europe, Rotterdam will make the buses 100% zero emission, and cities in North and South America are doing the same thing of different paces and approaches. And the short list of 5 cities demonstrates that cities across the world, regardless of the geographical locations and political sort of frameworks and regulations and legalities, are moving towards the same goal, which is the electrification or decarbonization of the public transport. However, the questions still remain as to how quickly can the transition happen, and because some cities and countries are looking towards 2030, 2040, or even beyond. And so in this transition, what the role can the public and private sectors play in accelerating this process, and also other stakeholders that might be affected or involved in the future or in the current process of the electrification of public transport. So without further ado, and I will be handing the microphone to the presentation to Hannah to give us the landscape of the electrification of public transport as well as the renewable energy. Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction and for the invitation. My name is Hannah Murdoch, and I'll be discussing some of the findings with a focus on transport from the latest edition of the REN21 Renewables Global Status Report, or GSR, that we just published 2 weeks ago. In case you're not familiar with REN21, we bring together a range of diverse actors supporting the uptake of renewables, from governments and intergovernmental organizations to NGOs, industry associations, and science and academia. As REN21's flagship report, the GSR provides an annual look at the advances in renewable energy markets, policy frameworks, investment, and industries globally. And this year's GSR 2019 marks 14 years of REN21 reporting, building on a diverse community of over 1,500 experts who have helped REN21 produce what's today one of the most widely referenced reports in the sector. And this year, our feature chapter was on cities, presenting some of the preliminary findings of our new status report series on renewables in cities. The first edition is due out later this year. So jumping right into the report findings, the year 2018 saw a relatively stable market for renewable energy technologies, with total global capacity increasing 8%. The biggest news was in the power sector, with a total of 181 gigawatts of renewable power added, including 100 gigawatts of solar PV. This was a consistent pace compared to 2017. And the number of countries integrating high shares of variable renewable energy, solar and wind, continues to rise. The share of modern renewable energy in total final energy consumption continues to grow, albeit slowly, reaching 10.6% in 2017. Fossil fuels continue to make up the vast majority of consumption, and biofuels for transport met 1% of total final energy consumption. The power sector has seen the most progress in recent years. Overall, renewable energy has grown to account for more than 1/3 of the world's total installed power generating capacity, with increasing amounts of non-hydropower renewables. Nearly 2/3 of net power capacity installations in 2018 were from renewable sources of energy, the highest share ever achieved, marking the 4th consecutive year that net additions of renewable power were above 50%. These advances in renewable power are in part due to the majority of policymaker focus remaining on the power sector, despite the far larger total final energy demand from other sectors. 51% in heating and cooling, and 32% in transport. The transport sector notably has the smallest share of renewable energy, hovering around 3%. Road transport accounted for around 75% of global transport energy use in 2016, with passenger vehicles representing more than 2/3 of this. So the vast majority, 95.9% of global transport energy needs continue to be met by oil and petroleum products, with 0.8% non-renewable electricity. There are small proportions met by biofuels at just 3% and renewable electricity at 0.3%. Despite the gains in energy efficiency in the sector, particularly in road transport, global energy demand in transport increased 45% between 2000 and 2017. This rise was attributed to the growing number and size of light-duty vehicles, as well as to rising demand for air travel and freight transport. And the result of all of this has been a global increase in CO2 emissions from the sector. The transport sector as a whole accounted for about 1/4 of global energy-related CO2 emissions. As biofuels make up the majority of the renewable contribution to the sector, I'll start with that. The global production of all biofuels in 2018 increased nearly 7%, reaching 153 billion liters, with the United States and Brazil dominating production. Ethanol accounted for an estimated 63% of global biofuel production. Despite these increases, growth in the use of biofuels for transport remains constrained by policy uncertainties and the slow progress in developing renewable fuels for markets such as aviation. In terms of electric vehicles, the deployment of EVs on the world's roads increased in 2018, driven largely by efforts to reduce air pollution. The global stock of electric cars reached over 5.1 million units in 2018, a 63% increase from the year before. Nonetheless, electric cars still represent only a small share of all passenger vehicles at just over 2.1% of vehicles by the end of the year. EV markets also remain highly concentrated. As of late 2018, 40% of all EVs in use were clustered in just 20 cities that together account for 3% of the global population. China had nearly 50% of the global EV stock by the end of 2018, followed by the United States at 22%. To support the further uptake of EVs, more than 100,000 public EV charging points were installed in 2018, bringing the global total to some 390,000 slow charging units and 150,000 fast charging units. The majority of these are concentrated in China. EVs have the potential to support the integration of variable renewable energy through demand-side management. And in numerous countries around the world, the power sector has experienced significant transformation, driven primarily by the rapid increases in variable wind and solar generation, such as in Uruguay and Ireland, among others shown here. The first specific use of variable renewables to charge EVs was piloted in California in 2018, and manufacturers are continuing to invest in bidirectional charging that continue to advance the potential linkages between EVs and VRE. Progress in variable renewables and in the power sector in general has been made possible by consistent and ambitious policy support by governments. But outside the power sector, policies for renewables have advanced at a much slower pace, as shown in this figure. Biofuels have been a central component of national renewable transport policy frameworks, with blending mandates existing in 70 countries at the national or state provincial level by the end of 2018. But this is still only about 36% of countries globally. And policies for renewable energy in the transport sector still focus largely on road transport. While no additional countries adopted biofuel mandates in 2018, some countries that had mandates in place added new ones, and several existing mandates were strengthened. Still, few new measures promoting advanced biofuels or other fuel sources were adopted in 2018, and fuel economy policies for light-duty vehicles existed in only 40 countries as of the end of 2018 and have been largely offset by trends toward larger vehicles, and only 5 countries have standards for trucks. In short, many jurisdictions are still lacking a holistic strategy for renewables in transport. Similar to policy mechanisms, targets for renewable energy continue to be more ambitious in the power sector. Only 45 countries have targets for renewable energy in transport, as you can see here. Around 80% of countries worldwide have acknowledged the transport sector's role in mitigating CO2 emissions by including transport in their nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. But this is not yet always reflected in official targets for the sector. Policies and targets for electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are not renewable energy policies and targets by themselves, but these vehicles can play an important role in increasing the role of renewables in the transport sector and in reducing global carbon emissions, especially when powered with rising shares of renewable electricity. Although numerous measures have been adopted in recent years to scale up EV use, few efforts have been made to link renewable electricity production directly with this use, or to ensure that EVs support the integration of renewable energy into energy supplies, variable or otherwise. At the national level, only Austria had a policy directly linking renewables with EVs as of the end of 2018. However, as shown in this figure, at least 49 countries have independent targets for renewable electricity and EVs. At least 19 countries aim to replace or phase out internal combustion engine vehicles and non-zero emission vehicles to simulate EV uptake. And at the city level in Europe during 2018, Brussels agreed to ban diesel cars from the city starting in 2030. Madrid banned the majority of non-zero emission vehicles from its city center, and Rome announced its intention to ban all diesel cars from its road by 2024. Cities are at the forefront of the energy transition, accounting for around 65% of global energy demand and home to more than half the world's people. Cities are advancing renewable energy across sectors through their efforts to achieve a wide range of interlinked environmental, economic, and social goals, including, for example, reducing air pollution, creating local jobs, improving energy access, and enhancing energy security and governance. Some cities are able to accomplish more ambitious goals than their national and state provincial counterparts, and they are adopting some of the world's most ambitious targets for renewables across all sectors. By the end of 2018, more than 50 cities had set comprehensive renewables targets covering the power, heating and cooling, and transport sectors. Still, globally, renewables are not competing on a level playing field. Global subsidies for fossil fuel consumption remain about double the estimated support for renewable power generation. Fossil fuel subsidies reached an estimated $300 billion in 2017, an 11% increase from the $270 billion the year before. In addition, one estimate places the true cost of fossil fuels at upwards of $5.2 trillion. Whether supported by subsidies or not, low fossil fuel prices encourage further demand for fossil fuels and challenge renewable energy markets, especially in the heating and transport sectors. To not end on an entirely negative note, I'd like to highlight one example in Europe where the energy transformation is occurring in the transport sector. Scandinavia has a long history of promoting the deployment of alternative transport fuels, including advanced biofuels, and the vehicles that use them through policy mandates and incentives at both the national and subnational levels. In addition, fuel efficiency, public transport, walking and cycling infrastructure are also promoted. The countries have ambitious renewable energy targets and support policies for both transport and power, meaning that the EVs effectively are being powered by growing shares of renewables, although these are still not directly linked. Financial and other incentives for EV purchases have been a central component of national efforts to increase adoption of the vehicles, along with the development of public charging infrastructure and deterrence for purchasing higher carbon emitting cars. At the local level, Sweden's capital, Stockholm, has set a goal to phase out fossil fuel use by 2040. Mechanisms to reduce emissions in the city's transport sector include the promotion of renewable fuels, the use of digital monitoring to increase the efficiency of bus lanes, and reserved parking for so-called green vehicles. The city has taken a novel approach to public procurement of transport services, allowing companies to adopt the technologies they prefer, which stimulates competition while meeting environmental goals in multiple ways, and resulting in a diverse mix of vehicles in Stockholm's fleet, with about 96% qualifying as clean under the city's definition. And following Stockholm's example, many other Scandinavian cities have adopted similar policies. So in conclusion, the Renewables 2019 Global Status Report shows that renewables in the power sector are expanding rapidly, but more is needed to grow renewable energy in transport as well as heating and cooling, both of which make up a much larger contribution to total final energy consumption. To spur the growth of renewable energy, governments should set more ambitious targets and build comprehensive, integrated support policy frameworks that support cities and cover all energy end-use sectors. A holistic strategy for transport would include greater incorporation of renewable energy through both renewable fuels and renewable electricity, along with reducing the overall need for transport. Transitioning to more efficient transport modes, such as public transport, non-motorized transport, or rail, and improving vehicle technology, such as through higher fuel efficiencies and emission standards, taken together known as avoid, shift, and improve. Governments can no longer turn their backs to the growing worldwide calls for immediate action to address climate change and achieve sustainable development goals. To find out more, you can access on our website, ren21.net, the GSR, and all other REN21 reports and materials, including the upcoming Renewables and Cities report and the Asia and the Pacific report, both of which will be launched later this year. Finally, mark your calendars for the next International Renewable Energy Conference that will hold in October in Seoul, South Korea, jointly hosted with the city government of Seoul and the national government of South Korea. With that, I'd like to thank you for your attention and would welcome any questions.
Thank you, Hannah. It's a really comprehensive and really detailed and sophisticated presentation. And I think I myself have been actually blown away by the magnitude, dimension, and scope of this report to see the ambitions and policies set by the national government and how cities can actually take on these transition on many fronts. As you mentioned, there are problems with the policy, the targets, and the infrastructure investment, and also some sector integrations, and also the alignment, the horizontal integration, I would say, and also vertical integrations, and the social acceptance, energy efficiency, which is a really complicated and really sophisticated package. So now I'd like to move on to give the floor to Jingyi from the city of Foshan, the Foshan new city in China, from her perspective as to how the electrification of the public transport, especially the buses, are really happening on the ground. So over to you, Jingyi.
Thank you. Today, I would like to make a short presentation of the electrification of public transportation in Foshan. The content of my presentation is about 4 parts. Starting from 2017, in order to meet the goal of air pollution prevention and control, Foshan has begun to fully implement the electrification of public transportation, mainly including electricity buses and hydrogen-powered trains. The electric buses operating in Foshan include all electric battery buses and hydrogen-powered buses. After 2017, only these 2 types of buses are allowed to be renewed or updated in the public transportation system. According to the plan, the city will realize 100% electrification in public transport at the end of 2020. On the other hand, Gaoming district will be the first hydrogen-powered train in China this year. The first part of the line is about 6.5 kilometers long with 10 stations. Meanwhile, Foshan is also accelerating the construction of supporting infrastructure, such as charging stations and hydrogen energy stations. The Foshan municipal government has speeded up the electrification of public transportation by putting forward policies and financial investment. 3 important policies and regulations are formulated to promote electrification of public transportation with social force. Foshan is going to invest 900 million yuan during 2018 to 2030 to support the application of new energy buses and infrastructure construction. This data statistics shows the development of green buses and new energy buses in Foshan since 2016. By the end of 2018, there were total 6,989 buses in Foshan, with a green bus proportion of 100%. The number of new energy buses is 2,763, with a proportion of 14%. It is clear that green buses and new energy buses, with the proportion of new energy buses increasing from 22% to 14%. By June 2019, there were about 4,000 new energy buses in Foshan, with a rate of 1,200 comparing with 2018. It is estimated that 1,247 all-electric battery buses and 710 hydrogen-powered buses will be added throughout the year. At the end of 2019, Foshan will reach the goal of 100% electrification of public transportation. In terms of supporting infrastructure, 10 and 39 charging stations, including 448 charging piles, has been completed in 2018. It is expected that there will be 28 hydrogen energy stations and 16 charging stations by the end of this year. The hydrogen power train is a new attempt to promote the electrification of public transportation in Foshan. The first hydrogen-powered train in China is being built in Gaoming district. The first part of the line is about 6.5 kilometers long, with 10 stations crossing the city from the north to the south. It is expected to put into use by the end of the year. Now I would like to introduce in detail the policies and regulations formulated by the government in promoting the electrification of public transportation. The first one is the promotion and application work plan of hydrogen-powered buses and all-electric battery buses during 2018 to 2019, which has made a construction plan for the development scale of bus in Foshan. It clarifies what functions and responsibilities the various departments should take in this mission. It also assesses the troubles and risks that may be encountered doing this job and puts forward solutions. The second policy is called Foshan Development Plan. Plan 2018 to 2030, which is a long-term comprehensive guideline. It indicates how to promote hydrogen-powered public transportation, as well as detailed measures for upstream and downstream industries, such as hydrogen production technology, hydrogen energy storage and transportation, and hydrogen energy applications. The terms for hydrogen-powered public transportation are as follows. 1. Exploring the practical application of hydrogen-powered vehicles through demonstration of hydrogen-powered buses. 2. Accelerating demonstration application for hydrogen-powered trains to explore commercial operation mode. 3. The construction of hydrogen energy stations can be combined with gas stations. 4. By 2030, Foshan's hydrogen-powered bus capacity will reach 4,000, as well as 15 hydrogen energy stations and 4 hydrogen-powered trains. There is also an analysis on how this hydrogen energy industry development plan impacts Foshan's future energy structure and industrial transformation. 11 indicators such as energy efficiency, atmosphere environment, ecological protection, development level, and economic benefits are evaluated by scenario analysis and a sustainability assessment. The evaluation results shows that gradually optimize Foshan's new energy structure and significantly reduce the use of natural gas. The development of a hydrogen energy industry can drive the transformation of Foshan's industrial structure to become healthier, more efficient, and sustainable with better environmental quality. In 2017, aiming to encourage the application of new energy buses, Foshan government issued the regulation of financial subsidy for new energy buses and infrastructure construction. Firstly, there is a subsidy at 15% of national standard for all electric buses and 100% accordingly for hydrogen-powered buses. It given strong support to the development of new energy in public utilities. Since 2017, financial aid has been given for purchase of new energy vehicles of specification models. In addition to national fund, local governments are allowed to provide subsidies at the same time. Secondly, there is a 115 yuan per kilowatt-hour subsidies for direct current charging pile and a 15 yuan per kilowatt-hour subsidies for alternating current charging pile. Thirdly, there is a 1.5 million to 3 million yuan subsidy for each hydrogen energy station. It is estimated that during 2018 to 2030, Foshan will invest 900 million to support of new energy buses and infrastructure construction. This is all of my presentation. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jingyi, for giving us another really eye-opening sort of case studies and the policies from Foshan. And it's quite interesting to see very recently from ECLA, we have also observed this transition of the discussion about, say, the next generation of the public transport, if I may say, has been moving from electrification of public transport, which is the battery-powered mobility, to hydrogen mobility for buses. And I think the race in this new energy buses has been on a very unprecedented rate to really moving towards the electrification of buses on the basis of the support of policies and financial investment regulations, and also actually the subsidies, and to really make change into the energy structure, energy profile. And our next speaker, Yu Bin, is from Shenzhen Urban Transport Planning and Design Institute in China. And I think for our participants of today, we probably have all heard about the transformation of the transport systems and performance in Shenzhen just in a couple of years' time. So I myself also can't wait to understand how Shenzhen achieved that through Yu Bin's presentation. So over to you, Yu Bin.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I like to show my topic low carbon transport, keep green travel about some introduce on new energy buses in Shenzhen, including the following 6 parts. And first, background. Shenzhen has become the 11th and 4th megacity of population and economy in the world after years of development. At present, there are 13 million permanent residents and 3.4 million vehicles. Carbon emissions in transportation are second only to those in industry. And in 2015, the CO2 emission of passenger transport in Shenzhen was 10 million tons per year, nearly 5 times that of 2005. And part 2 goals and achievements. Shenzhen has been exploring the promotion scheme of new energy vehicles since 2009, and in 2011, it took the lead in launching 2011 electric buses in the field of public transport. Up to now, there are nearly 150,000 new energy vehicles in the city, including 17,000 buses and 21,000 taxis. And buses in Shenzhen are operated by 3 major companies. All the buses are from BYD, and including 10.5-meter ordinary bus, 8-meter medium, and 10.5 double-check bus. From the view of environmental protection, electric buses consumes 106 kilowatt-hour electricity per 100 kilometer. Compared with the diesel buses, it saves about 73% energy and reducing CO2 emission by 636 kilotons per year, equivalent to 14,000 hectares vegetation. And in terms of management, establish a data center, forming intelligent operating management network of charging, operating, dispatching, and survey integration. And comfort has been improved, and barrier-free facilities have been added. The next part is main measures. Firstly, set a goal, draw up annual promotion plans, and steadily promote the launch of BEV. Then compare technical specification for charging facilities to ensure the universality of charging facilities. And thirdly, conduct 7 rounds of evaluation from 2020. Annual evaluation of buses operating effect, safety, reliability, battery, charging facilities operation. And the commercialization model is divided in 2 stages, including 3 modes. From 2009 to 2014, promotion exploration stage adopts the mode of financing lease, separation of vehicle and electricity, combination of charge and maintenance. Simply speaking, the bus company buys buses without batteries from BYD. The remaining battery cost is purchased by the charging facility operator, and the bus company buys charging service from the charging facility operator. Then from 2015, it's a stage of large-scale promotion and application. The first mode is vehicle purchase, service outsourcing. Bus company buys the whole buses from BYD, and BYD is responsible for repairing the key parts of the buses, including motors, batteries, and control systems. Charging facility operators are responsible for the construction of charging facilities, selling charging service to bus company. And the second one adopts the mixed leasing model. Third-party financial institutions buy buses, charging facilities, maintenance service from BYD. Bus companies lease buses and charging facilities from the third parties. Then, after 8 years, the ownership of the buses and charging facilities bus company. And part 4, the construction of supporting facilities. Shenzhen plans to build 332 electric bus charging stations and 5,500 special charging piles. Up to now, 286 charging stations and 5,300 charging piles have been built. And the difficulties in promoting mainly include 3 aspects. Firstly, normalizations such as technique configuration, charging facilities construction, and operation standards will need to be improved. Second, the lands. The construction of charging facilities, meaning concentrated in the available land resources, are limited. Third, the maintenance capacity and staff are insufficient. The last part is sustainable development. Governments need to gradually improve relevant technique standards and norms. Rationally planning the land source, add changing piles to existing common yards and stations, and support maintenance enterprise. And next stop, Shenzhen will keep standards as a guide, facilities as a support, innovation as a driving force, safety and services assessment as a grasp, meaning an incremental 100% electrification. And thank you, and welcome to Shenzhen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Yubin, for giving us the overview of the path to electrification in Shenzhen. In particular, the 3 challenges and difficulties you presented are really sort of impressive, as to that could serve a basis and also serve a precedent for other cities to follow up and to really plan electrification in their cities. In particular, the normalization or standardization of e-buses from the policies, infrastructures, and also the technologies. And secondly is the land, which is highly relevant to the resources. And thirdly is the maintenance, that actually requires a different capacity or different, I would say, technologies or trainings for the staff and also for the city government as well. Thank you. A big thank you to our speakers, and Hannah, Jingyi, and Yubin, and across the continent and across the language barriers, but I think we've made it. And also thank you to ICLEI colleagues through the technical support and also language support from Yiqian, Beatrice, and as always, as well as Julia. So once again, thank you very much for your participation, and have a nice day or have a nice rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
And bye. Bye.
Bye.